Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video. And this is the second of two requests for Alban. Thank you so much for that. For those interested in requesting any type of videos, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal. I do have a Cash App as well. Links are down below in the info box, and I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. For those who sent them, thank you. I do appreciate it. And this is for The Sons of Katie Elder, a 1965 Western starring John Wayne. Now, I won't go into my thoughts on John Wayne because I did that with The Searchers. I probably did that with Rio Bravo if that review is still up. Long story short, I knew about John Wayne, but I grew up more with people like Clint Eastwood, among other stuff. Although I really did like Rio Bravo. And The Searchers, I didn't mind. This one I probably liked a bit more than The Searchers, only because I liked the interactions with the characters, in particular John Wayne and Dean Martin. I didn't mind some of the interactions with all four of the brothers. There's a couple of ones that I thought was fun. I liked the pacing a bit better in this. Again, I didn't mind The Searchers, but this one, I guess I just got invested in the story a bit more. Because honestly, this is a story that... Remember that film came out many years after this? Four Brothers with Mark Wahlberg. That's pretty much this. So I'm guessing that story was based on this, or it sure seems like it. Because it's four brothers, and they're coming home because of the funeral of their mom. And they want to figure out what happened. Only that, I think it's more like adopted brothers here. There are actual brothers. Dean Martin, cool to see him in this again because I really liked him in Rio Bravo. I think he fits in this comfortable and well. For a guy who's just known as a singer, he's actually a charismatic actor. I know he did a lot of stuff with Jerry Lewis, which honestly, I don't remember much of any of those films that him and Jerry Lewis did. I might have seen once or twice, but that was when I was a kid, so I don't remember a thing about them. And I know they had a big split. And so while Jerry Lewis was doing his thing, Dean Martin was doing his thing, doing stuff like this. But, I mean, the gist of the story is their mother has died. The sons come home for the funeral. First it's the three of them. Dean Martin, another guy, and the youngest guy. And they're waiting for John Wayne, the oldest, at this train, but he doesn't arrive. A funeral takes place, and John Wayne is watching the distance. The reason he's watching from a distance because usually where he's at, trouble follows. He's kind of known as this gunslinger, of course, because John Wayne. Ultimately meets up with the brothers. And what I liked about it was you really get a sense of the guilt that the four have as they're constantly reminded of how great their mom was because the town talked so insanely good about her, how nice she was, how she would do this and this and this, and how they'd be willing to do anything for Mrs. Elder, Mrs. Katie Elder. Like, for example, they think they owe money for the funeral. No. It had to deal with her. And then they find out that the land they owned was lost to this guy, Morgan Hastings, months ago. Apparently their dad lost it at a card game. Then the dad was shot in the back. Soon after, the land was taken. She didn't get any money from it. And then she lived very poor. She only had one dress for winter and one dress for summer. And a lot of the townsfolk treat the brothers like shit, going, why weren't you there for her? And how come she always talked about her great boys and they would send her money even though you guys didn't. And you just feel the regret that these four have. I thought people like John Wayne, they did a good job showcasing that feel of regret and that feel of they wish they could have done something differently, and they wish they could have done stuff better. They wish You just feel it. I thought that was palpable, and I thought that worked well for the story of the picture. And I was also surprised by some of the familiar faces. Like, okay, I mentioned John Wayne. I mentioned Dean Martin. My nose is itching for some reason. But I didn't recognize the other two brothers. Which, honestly, the guy who played the youngest brother, I did not like him at all. I thought he was the weakest actor. I thought he was kind of annoying. Because, oh, I'm 18 or I'm almost 18. And the idea is that the mom wanted him to go to college. He's like, I'm not going to college. I'm going to go with you, John Wayne. And then Wayne's like, only one problem. Who said you were invited? I mean, he's got a point. And they're trying to get him to go. Listen, Mom wanted you to go. We should respect her wishes. No, why do I have to do it? I'm like, shut the fuck up, dude. Before the dude puts up his dukes and punches you in the face. Like I want to, motherfucker. I want Dean Martin to grab a guitar. There is no guitar. He doesn't sing in this. Which I was surprised. I thought... Because I think you heard a bit of that in Rio Bravo. And he's known as a singer, but... I'm surprised they didn't have a scene where he was singing. I was fine with that. Because, it's just a lot of films would do that back in the day. Like films in the 30s. There was a lot of movies that would kind of stop. That would only have a song and dance number. Just watch a number of like Abbott Costello movies and things of that nature where they have the comedy. Then we gotta have the song and dance number. So I thought, okay, they don't have Dean Martin sing a bit. But they didn't, so... Like I said... I thought it was refreshing. Unexpected bit of business. But yeah, the younger brother just annoyed the piss out of me. And I wanted that character to get shot in the face for being such a whiny bitch. Oh, but I was mentioning the familiar people. George Kennedy, who would be in the Naked Gun films with Leslie Nielsen. He was in the Delta Force. He was in... I think he was in the Airport movies. Yeah, I think he was in all the Airport movies, I believe. But he's here as a hired gunfighter, so he's a villain. And you tell that he's heard of John Wayne and kind of really wants to take John Wayne out. But he's been hired by this Morton Hastings guy who owns the Elders Ranch. We find out he's the main bad guy, and he hired George Kennedy. In case trouble arises, you take care of business and you kill John Wayne or what have you. Make it look like an accident or whatever. If not an accident, then, I don't know, some other way. But also Dennis Hopper's in the film. He plays Morgan Hastings' son. That you could tell he's a bit... he's uneasy about the whole thing. He's a little bit more scared, a little bit more not gung-ho about what's going on. Not 100% in favor of what his dad's been doing. So it was cool to see a pretty young Dennis Hopper in this. Because I never knew Dennis Hopper was in a John Wayne movie. But here you go. So that was cool to see. You could tell that John Wayne was getting a bit older, a little bit more huff in his step. There's this woman who knew their mom, and you got an inkling that maybe they're going to try to go for a romance between these two. Thankfully, they didn't go any further. Because I don't know what age either one was, but it seemed like there was a discrepancy. But thankfully, they didn't go too far on that, which I was fine with. I actually prefer they don't go further, at least in this one. There's not a lot of action. There's a couple shootouts here and there. A little bit here and there. There's a fun bit where John Wayne goes back to talk to this guy who helped out with the funeral of their mom, but George Kennedy is giving him a hard time asking 20 questions. And John Wayne ain't having that, so he hits George Kennedy with like a bat or a stick right across the face, then dunks his ass and takes his ass out. Or at least George Kennedy was dunking the guy, and then John Wayne's like, hey, smacks and beats the shit out of him. There's a funny brawl where the four are arguing about certain things. Like at one point they're arguing about we should have something for the mom's grave, some monument. And the younger was, oh, there was something with an angel that had this, but maybe that's not a good idea because they shot the figure off, and now it looked like the angel was just doing this. And then D. Martin's like, well, why don't we have a horse? And they're like, a horse? Well, Ma loved horses. Well, that's a stupid idea. Ultimately, some other stuff gets said, and it leads to a fight where they all start fighting each other. And that's kind of funny. Especially like two of them punch John Wayne at the same time, and he falls back through the door and kind of falls on his ass. Like, and also, like, there's a scene later on where they help this guy herd cattle. It was something that the mom was going to help out with, but since she passed, hey, let's do something because it's what she would have wanted. So listen, sir, we'll help with your cattle. So they're doing it, and they're relaxing, and pretty much they all kind of push each other into the water, and John Wayne's like on top, and all the brothers grab him. He's like, hey, and they drag him all into the water. Because it's not something I get to see with John Wayne, a bit of that comedy, where these guys just pull his ass into the water. It's like, hey, it's... So it's just kind of funny to see a bit of that levity and input into this. But spoilers, starting off spoilers. The sheriff who's looking into what happened to the brother's dad, he's asked too many questions, so Morgan Hastings, he shoots the guy. The elders get blamed for it, and since they weren't happy with them anyway for how they treated their mom, they're easy to believe, oh, they must be killers. So one leads to another. A mob's ready to get them, but a deputy goes, no, we gotta move them to a town, have them stand trial. But the bad guy and George Kennedy them, they're gonna have this ambush at this bridge. That's where you get, I would say, one of the first shootouts. One of the only shootouts, honestly. Where the brothers have to hide under a bridge. Dynamite's thrown. Bridge blows up. And one of the brothers, not the youngest, but the other guy. And that's the thing, like, the other two brothers, after the youngest I was annoyed, and the other was kind of just there. The actor I don't recognize. I don't really think he had any personality, good or bad. It's not that he was bad, it's just kind of forgettable. Just as one of the brothers. That's the thing, I think this would have worked better if all four were notable people, recognizable people. So if the other two brothers were like people we could recognize, and so when one dies, it'd be much more of a shock, and the other, maybe it was like an actor who's much more better actor, or more charismatic actor, or younger, that had the it factor, he would have been less annoying. I don't know, I always think about, I think, was it Rio Bravo? One of those movies where they actually wanted, well, there's a possibility of Elvis Presley being in it. Part of me almost wishes, like, the younger guy here was Elvis Presley. Maybe people, oh, well, that's such a bad idea. I don't know. I think that would have made it a bit more memorable. I mean, hell, I think he could have complained and he would have been less annoying than this guy. And they could make fun of his pretty looks and go to college, and yeah, I'd go for Elvis trying to, you know what? I've seen much worse actors than Elvis Presley. I'll say that. So that's probably just me, though. But yeah, this one, the other two brothers kind of, I could take or leave them, especially the younger, leave them. But yeah, the other one dies, and John Wayne, you tell he gets pissed. He's like, choo, 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 choo. Nice facial expressions. You tell he's pissed off. unloading his guns. Now, granted, I didn't count the bullets. It seemed like he almost had infinity bullets after a while. I'm not sure. Maybe it was the right count, but it felt like it went on forever a bit. Then gets his rifle, kills George Kennedy. I think they kill another person. They run away. They go back to the town since the youngest is hurt. They get a doctor. There's a bit of a standoff. Dean Martin gets the idea to kidnap Dennis Hopper. While he's doing that, the bad guy sees this and decides to shoot at both of them. Shoots Dennis Hopper, wounds Dean Martin. Dennis Hopper tells all before he dies, since his own dad shot him. Another good deputy, or who I forget, part of law enforcement hears this. Maybe it was the marshal. As they said, we're going to get a marshal, but I don't know if he was there yet. Anyway, maybe it wasn't. I forget the guy's title. I'm getting older. My memory's going. I apologize. Not as like it used to be. Anyway, someone law enforcement sees it or hears it, so it's going to prove their innocence. I thought Dean Martin's character was dead, but we hear in dialogue he is alive. And I just wish the ending was a bit more of a bigger scope. It just seemed like the ending kind of, I don't know. I guess back in the day, this was fun and acceptable. I guess I'm so used to movies nowadays where the ending's like this big set piece that, that's. It seemed like even Rio Bravo felt that way. But here it was, well, John Wayne's pissed. A little bit of cat and mouse shootout in the ammo place that Warden Hastings owns. There's like a barrel of gunpowder. John Wayne places it somewhere, goes outside, shoots a couple times, blows up the place. Then pretty much it's over. I figured, well, there's a lot more of this Warden Hastings men. He's going to have to deal with all of them. No. He just kills the one guy, goes back, is told your youngest brother's going to be fine. Dean Martin's going to be fine. Would have been nice to see them. Would have been nice to have one more final scene with the brothers. Like maybe they're bandaged up and they're at 2 graves, or maybe it's 3 graves for the dad, the mom, and the other brother. I kind of them say a few words and walk off to the distance or what have you. So I wish we could have had one final scene with Dean Martin. I guess the other guy, sure. Instead of just hearing, oh, they'll be okay. So I wanted a little bit more. I wanted more with the ending. There's not much action. Like I said, there's maybe, I would say, 2 shootouts and 2 fisticuff moments, and one is like a funny family brawl. So that's, I mean, there's not much action if you're going into it for that. Again, the youngest brother I thought was annoying, but I did like the story. I liked the story of the brothers coming home for a funeral of a mom and kind of figuring out what's going on, what's happening. I thought John Wayne and Dean Martin, kind of like what he did in Rio Bravo, a guy who's a gambler and. But I liked the story. I would say Dean Martin more redemptive angle I felt in Rio Bravo, where he was more of a drunk and he's able to show what he could prove, while here he's just a gambler that usually runs away from trouble, but now he stays with his brothers. Also, I mean, it was a bit annoying that Dean Martin kind of got taken out so quickly. Like I say, he doesn't die, but just he gets the guy, runs off, gets wounded, but he accomplished something at least, so he wasn't useless. But I don't know, I just wish he could have been involved a bit more with the finale. That's what I mean. I wish there were like a couple guys, and maybe like D. Martin's wounded, but he shoots a couple, and then John Wayne shoots a couple, and then maybe they're both dealing with this guy, and then John Wayne gets the idea to blow up the place. I don't know. That's just me. But overall, like I said, I liked some of the camaraderie between the brothers, some of the bits of humor. It was cool to see a younger George Kennedy and Dennis Hopper, and George Kennedy a bit more as a villain. Because I'm so used to, again, him in films like the Naked Gun movies and stuff. Even films like the Terror Within, where he played a good guy. You know, when the shootouts were there, they were fine for what they needed to be. I mean, overall, I didn't mind it. I liked it. I didn't love it, but I liked it for what it was. So, with that said, thanks for watching. Take care. And we will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye for now.